Welcome everybody to the final presentation on the pitches. My name is Keishan, CJ. I represent all white males with beards in this region who are all power. Like yesterday, somebody, a male, old, white beard, started the challenge from the Vredesbureau. I'm going to give a small recap of a very intensive day yesterday. So I made some notes and I'll try to stick to the notes. So it started with a challenge from the Peace Bureau, which the way I simplified my understanding of where they came from, started in the 80s, obviously with the whole threat of atomic bombs and nuclear war. At some moment, apparently the Vredesbeweging in the Netherlands was extremely huge. And of course, this evaporated after the fall of the Iron Curtain and the Berlin Wall, etc., etc. And now there's a question with the Vredesbureau: how can we get new people to join us? How do we find continuation of our income? And of course, behind that is the question: if the peace movement goes away, what does that mean for world peace? The simplified version. So we also got the assignment from Hans to say you don't necessarily have to come up with a solution, which obviously disappointed us because we thought immediately we can suggest a solution for world peace, but yeah, if the Vredesbureau doesn't want it, then we don't do that. He said, give me lots of material to think about and then we might reuse that. One of the things he explicitly asked is, of course, there are many recommendations that we should find new members and people to continue with on social media, but that's, let's say, for white people with a beard and my age, this doesn't come naturally. So that was one of the big questions. So one of the topics we addressed a huge amount of topics. So yesterday was a highly intensive day. Some of us were brave enough to go into the night and continue their pitch, which will be an extremely valuable pitch today. But one of the questions was, yeah, if you've grown up for the past 2 years watching atrocities happen on TikTok, what the hell does peace mean if nobody was able to prevent this or nobody was able to fix this? So this also goes into the whole social media thing. There are many children of that age who have seen what peace is and what old people with white beards are incapable of preventing. And that also doesn't necessarily help the peace movement gain new followers. And that led us into a larger discussion on what peace is. And so it was philosophically interesting, but it was also practically interesting. So there was one definition of peace, that peace is the absence of armed warfare, which is obvious, so peace is not war. But then somebody else remarked, yeah, but the absence of war doesn't necessarily have to give you peace. Because there are many situations where there is no war, but it doesn't mean that there is peace. And then there was also another angle, which is, yeah, if we here in the Netherlands are at peace and we have a liberal society where you can use drugs, but that drugs comes from Colombia where it doesn't help promote peace, then the whole thing becomes more complex. And then, in my mind, more or less led into the observation that we have many more refugees in today's society, also in the Netherlands, but also elsewhere. So it should be much easier to understand how horrible the absence of peace is, as long as we would invite other people to tell us what they ran away from, what did they flee for. And that might give us a much better understanding of the necessity for peace and something to do with. So one of the ideas that was suggested is a project like, how does peace sound in your native language? And then to get people to articulate what they ran away from and what their story is for peace and how it is important to tell that story. The other important point was made by Koen. Does peace not necessarily require you to have an inner peace before you can arrive at a social peace? And then we ended up with another project, is peace by peace for peace. So can we use art and can we find people to express themselves which was a whole different project on another angle, but a very interesting suggestion. And I think there will be more pitches. One final line of thinking was, how do we do the financing and how do we get corporate funding? Because everything that's good in this region comes from ASML, and we should always be thankful for ASML, but maybe we can get money from ASML. And then there was the observation that there are the three most well-known logos in the world is the Nike sign. There's a second one that I forgot, but the third most well-known logo in the world is the peace sign. So the combination was also, can we maybe find a slogan from ASML and then connect that with the peace sign and then use that, and then by the time that they argue that they don't want you to use their logo in that way, maybe you could say, yeah, but you can't be against peace, so you have, so it might be a fun project to get some upheaval and some coverage on, yeah, but why don't you fund us and help us fund peace if that would be good for the region. But on the combination of Nike and the peace sign, Koen has his very own pitch. So applause for me and applause for Koen.